Okay, so call the Town of Rochester audit meeting to order. The town board is auditing the vouchers for July 2020. Adam's coming. Just, the reason he signed earlier is he couldn't get there at 6. So he can hear that. Now he was going to zoom in. Because he was recorded for 6 o'clock. He left here. And every time anybody else comes, the issue be in the the highway was considered the most considered to do all the paving. Oh, we'll get most of these. Got a very nice presentation. Paid $211,000. Yeah, that was the truck plus the couple of the truck plus the wing. Yeah, it was 211 something by the time it was yeah, no, the next one is in August. We get the check in September. We're all right. We'll just look at YouTube to see if we're actually there. What? For the budget? Not yet. Goes out in the morning. There's an actual time limit. Third week in August, and then it's due back to meeting. It's like mid-September. Yeah, I'm gonna actually make a schedule for us by calendar dates. And bring it to, I'll have it for everybody at once. Yep. This way we can put all our budget workshop meetings in it, so we all know how the October. And we, we could. Yeah, the growing season is slowing down right there. Hey, that's the setup right there for the pen. And we are broadcasting on YouTube. Yep. Audit meeting. One time we meet. Was that Mary Lou? Larry David. Hi, David. Well, did somebody just call me in? Larry David. You just want to watch, I guess. be on there, because when I read my paper, that's
Well,
why
I
I
do.
showed it.
First one on the list. Oh, and so, there's one here. That's the fire.
Oh, that is the, that comes out of the grant fund.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's on top.
If you're working off my page, the grant fund will wasn't on there. That was in street lighting, single entity lighting. If you're working on Shirley's page, mine's the one that has my signature on it.
Right, now, one page, way I work for you is the other.
It's probably a way to work from Shirley's. I just run mine as a. Yeah, this was the band. They 70,000. Yes, that's the total amount that was due on the band, and we paid for the interest, and then we paid 70,000. So we'll continue to pay that down over. This is I think the third payment. We've got five years to pay it off. And the way we're doing it, it'll actually be paid off after 4 payments plus the remainder on the left. No, I'm paying it off aggressively, 70,000 each payment, and then the last payment will be like 30,000.
You know what I mean? Remember when we started, we paid one of these times early and saved.
That wasn't on the band. That was on something else. Yeah. That's the payment that's due the end of January that we always pay in December. It's something to do with might be the retirement. Retirement. If we pay it early, then we save a percent.
That I know. No, this was
Is it bad?
This was money.
Oh,
And we paid it early.
the lease of the trucks, the 5 payments on the lease of the trucks.
Yes.
Yes, by paying that early. By paying the first payment when we purchased the trucks as opposed to at the end of the payment period, we didn't pay interest on it. Thank you. I forgot all about that. That was 2018, so
Yes.
it worked.
That's right, but I do remember.
Yeah.
That we did not do
Yep, yeah, we paid the first payment up front
that.
at purchase. And because of that.
But I know that if we pay.
Yeah, the band is just,
Workers' comp is the same role through the town.
yeah. No. Is it the one that's out now? Okay, I saw it the other day. Oh. Mhm. They actually had a resign. Oh, yeah. Oh. I think something to do with that.
Yeah.
I don't know everything. Did you like to see my folder or is that?
It's over on the table.
Okay.
You good? Yeah, brand new, right over there.
Oh,
Brand new bright color.
did you stick an agenda in there? What is that? I printed one, but of course I left it sitting in my desk. I was forgetting things today as I came over because it's the first audit meeting we weren't in that building. So I was trying to remember everything I needed.
Brand new.
Dina made new folders.
I worked very hard. You got it.
And she lined them with cardboard to make them much sturdier. So when you get all that mail in your folder,
That I had,
that's collapse.
that I had.
Well, those old folders we were using were probably been used for the last 5 years. Sure. We were free something and we had to two something carryover to the truck. Only that we have left to do. Okay. Oh, much more than that. 88 is what, 88 is not what we have left. 88 is what we have taken in so far. Prior to the check we just got. Yeah. The column you're reading is what was received, not what's left. What's left, Jeff made that mistake last week. He came to me, mechanic, he was out of money in the account. So that's how much we spent in that account. No, that column is the amount we have. And we increased the budget line by the 200,000 that rolled over from 19 because we didn't get the truck until 2020. Oh, 211. Yeah. We have around 350,000. Jeff is working under what the State Highway Superintendent's Association is. The state's office that funds it has warned everybody that they reserve the right when they fund the chips. They told them all that they may pull back 20% in the fall, pending state budget. So we may. Jeff is working on the fact that 20% will be pulled back. So it won't be 20% of the 500, it'll be 20% of what we credited for this year, which is 3. Right. We may potentially lose about 60,000, 60 to 70. But in the meantime, in August, we'll be submitting materials and hours for all the paving and chipping stone. We still have not heard on the local government grant, that we applied for that we should have heard in the month of July. The records management grant. Yeah. Well, the year we did get it, we didn't get notified until February of the next year. We got it. And it ran out in May. And we never were able, we weren't able to use the entire grant because we had stopped working. Adam came to the office and saw it because he said he was going to do it. No, it didn't just be late. We had something, appointment came up, and we'll be here about 6:30. Yeah. It happens. I missed one that going through the rest of the event because it stuck to the other. We don't want to get really trouble. Second to last audit.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yes.
September 18th. Not yet. I have it down to 4. 75%. That was in about 10 days. And then I just paused the ad because I was getting 67 a day.
Yeah.
After it got to the 70s,
I was gonna send, I was gonna do something that we did.
you were gonna apply?
I will.
You want to go?
Not again. I would rather be one to help. I would like to help. But I was gonna like, what is it called? Issue? Oh, issue. And I was gonna show up with two glasses of iced tea instead of. But I can't do that. I thought about it as a joke. I think it's going to be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still Naples, just everywhere else, where it's a smaller place. My mom's still working, so it's mostly working from home, but she still goes in, the office is not far away, so she still goes in fairly regularly. She's finally thinking about retiring at 76, almost 76. Thinking about that. Yeah. She's afraid she'll just sit, and I said, I know you left this. She will find something. If you find anything 7/20/30, let me know. I realize I transposed the dates on a couple of them, but I caught them in the past. Yeah, it's 2030 is when
one little thing.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, I was just wondering if there was any way to improve the audio.
Well, at this point, we are only signing the bills, so there's really no business being taken up yet. When we get to the actual meeting, we will make sure we project.
Okay, thank you.
We're just having idle conversation right now. Apologies.
Oh, no worries, thank you.
We have to put it out as a public meeting, but we, at this point, we are just signing the bills for the month. And then as soon as that is completed, we'll convene the regular meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Are you comfortable with the other one for signing as we go, or do you want to? I don't know, maybe if you want to. Mary's going to join us at some point. Yeah. You guys set? Okay. One moment. I went to my other cell phone, and Mary's going to call me into 2 o'clock. Okay, you ready, Chris? Okay. I'll call the workshop meeting, July workshop meeting of the Town of Rochester Town Board to order. As you stand for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, report to the roll call, please.
Councilman Allen. Councilman Allen, here. Councilman Lee.
Yes.
Councilman
have a quorum. Just a request that you try to project, speak up as best we can. There's a computer over there. That's the microphone that's picking up. So our attorney is going to join us momentarily. I told her between 6:30 and 6:45 by Zoom. So we'll start with the items that don't involve her, and then when she gets here, we'll circle back to her items. So the first is, we're meeting here for the first time in person. Our August regular meeting, we have a public hearing. The technology was kind of working out for the planning board meeting, but kind of not for public hearings. What I wanted to do is put it to the board. We wanted to go back to the format that we were using with us at our own homes, or do we want to meet at the August meeting in person? We can do either one. I just wanted to put it out there for an actual discussion to see what people's preferences are.
So what was not working out was just like having people call in.
The calling in is okay. The problem is, obviously, you can't have multiple computers on in the room because there's a delay. And even if the microphone is muted, it still causes a feedback, as you saw when I tried to log mine on earlier. So it's a clarity issue because the computer that is broadcasting us as a whole is also the one that's recording. So sometimes it's difficult for people to hear us. We can hear them fine. We figured out how to broadcast it through the television. So as you heard, the volume is very good on that, but the turn back is the problem. It's up to the board what you want to do.
It would be better if we do it from home because then we're individualized.
Correct. Then we can each have our own microphones turned on in our own computer if we're not in the same room. It works if we're all in different rooms. We can all be here, but when we're in the same physical room, it's a meeting like this where there's not much input from the public can work. But when there's multiple conversation and dialogue, it might be more difficult. And being that I've had a number of calls about this public hearing because it involves no parking at Towpath Road. A number of the neighbors have called, a number of the people who put their calls. So I'm expecting we may have a significant number of people speaking. So it's up to what the board, what your feelings are.
I want to be clearer. I'd like to do it.
I think it's, well, then they can hear us as well. And that's really, it's more that's the issue than us hearing them instead of hearing us. If it wasn't the public hearing, I think I would be less inclined. I'm kind of on the fence, and that's why I put it on to get input from you guys and what you thought. You don't have to make a decision this moment. We can wait till Adam comes. He said we should be here around 6:30.
Yeah, I wonder too, I think, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that what I've seen other boards do, if we would come out and they have public comments that the board at the board meeting, they actually have like a separate camera and mic, and that allows for a better picture and better sound.
Yeah.
So we have to.
We don't have that technology available to us. We probably could procure it. We probably could even borrow it. I haven't had the time to really investigate it. This setup came kind of at the last minute because the planning board, because of all their maps, wanted to meet in person, and that makes sense because they're all trying to look at the same map and have conversations about something that if everybody's looking at a different place in the map, it's hard to have a conversation. It's much easier to point to a location rather than explain it. So we started that. I'm willing to try to continue it, and I agree your way of doing it, saying it is probably the much better way to do it. We don't even really have to technically decide because as long as it's already publicized for YouTube for the public to call in. It's just a matter of what our comfort zone is.
Would it be, could I have a couple days?
Sure. If you can come up with
a
a way to make it work so we have better local quality, we can certainly, I just want everybody, make sure we get the message out to all of us so we all
And
know.
if we can't figure it out, then we'll do it at home.
Okay, okay, yeah,
Yeah, I want to test it.
yeah. Because right now, I mean, you can see on the picture, 3 tables is about, I mean, it's perfect for our board because we have 6 or 7 people here. And it can work with the 6 feet apart. Otherwise, I mean, if we had a wider angle camera too, we could not use the laptop camera.
Right.
But,
And then if we did it like that, we could then potentially, if we needed to, have someone managing the Zoom part,
mhm.
muting, unmuting.
We might very well need that for the public hearing because otherwise I'm gonna be running back and forth or I'm gonna be off camera, one or the other. I actually thought of that this afternoon about how we're gonna have to come. Because normally for the planning board and the ZBA, I come in and play moderator for it.
Right.
So
But you're not deterred.
we'll have to have somebody else do that.
Okay.
Possibly. We'll try to work that through this week. And you can let me know what you find out.
Okay,
Because if we do it in Zoom, as we have been, I can moderate myself. If we don't, then. Okay, shared work program, I want to give you an update. As you probably all know, the federal money, additional $600 payment, and this week, we have 6 employees that are still doing the shared work program. They have made, here comes that again. Ready for everybody. And we're broadcasting live. So, and you have your folder, is that your folder over there? Yeah. So we have 6 employees who are still working either 40% or 50% of their normal hours and being paid accordingly, and the balance is being paid through unemployment. And with the addition of the 600, it brings them up to slightly more than what they normally would. Some of the other towns are ending it this week. I'll be honest, 3 of those employees, if we were to end it, we don't have enough work. We don't have the recreation part. We don't have the work for them to go back to their normal life. We would probably have to furlough them totally. What I would like to do, and I have discussed this with a number of them, I can honestly say I have not spoken to all 6 individually, but I've spoken to more than the majority of them. I would like to continue the program through August. Their general consensus is that initially, when we were at 50% work reduction and paying full pay, and then now with the 600, that they have been paid more than they would have been paid under their normal work schedule. So, I would like to just continue it through the end of August. We'll revisit it at the end of August. Plus, we still don't know what how this may or may not be. But since our original resolution was through the end of July, I think if we're going to continue it through August, have a new resolution to continue it until still that Saturday. Just so you know, because the microphone is picking up there, we're just making sure we do that. Oh, yeah, I know you don't have any issue. So I'll go ahead and make the motion that we extend the shared work program for the employees currently on it as with the percentages as is through August 29th. Any discussion? Okay, I guess we don't need to do a roll call vote, because we're all sitting in the same room. So, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, I will let the employees know. Thank you. It is saving us in the neighborhood of about, what do they figure out today? About $2,000, $3,000. Next is, I'm gonna skip item number 3 till Mary Lou gets here because I want her to weigh in on it. Item number 4, paving community center, right up here and the court parking lot. I spoke with Jeff about utilizing the services of the paving people that we utilize. We do a shared service with Marbletown. Marbletown comes and brings their equipment and paves. We do the trucking of the material and supply the manpower for that. They supply the manpower with our shared services agreement. And in return, we help them with various projects throughout the year. Because of that, the labor and the equipment costs us $0. We just have to pay for the material. He estimates in the neighborhood of 8,000 to 8,500 per project based on the size. The good news is we will be able to submit that into our CHIPS funding, so we have a little bit of extra this year. That's another mistake when you say that. So we potentially can get reimbursed the entire amount. I don't know that we're ever going to get that opportunity again, and because they paved Samsonville Road and it's now 3 inches higher, you can attest to that. You had to raise your mailbox 3 inches. Yeah. It's a significant hump down into our parking lot there. The one thing I'm gonna make sure they try to do though is grade it slightly away from the building, because right now the water runs down and runs straight to the building. I'm sure when they pave, they can. So. They did do a transition, but it's a pretty steep transition. I pulled out of there a couple days ago. And, yeah. I'd like to make a motion then to authorize the expenditure of the funding. You could say up to 17,000. Actually, probably say up to 18,000 because I don't want to, it's like $300 more. I don't want to cut it that high. Jeff thinks it will be less than that. But, so we'll say up to 19,000 for the paving at the community center and the court parking lot with the expectation that it will be reimbursed. You can make it. So I have a second. And Jeff, actually, do I have a second? I'll second. Okay. Where that old tree was that we cut down a couple of years ago by the courthouse, Jeff is going to remove that stump and flatten that little berm out. And so we will pave all the way around the backside of the courthouse, the whole. So I think it would be a significant improvement. Very. The only thing that would potentially run into a problem is if they remove all that 20%, chances are part of the reason I brought you now is if we get the work done in this, it's beginning in the August payment, we will get it. It's not roadway, but it is roadway. Yes, I saw her Facebook post and looking for spreadsheets of the numbers. And, yeah.
What is that?
It's 30-some% now, which will be the reduction. Yeah, the city of Kingston gets their sales tax payments on a regular basis. We get ours twice a year because all the towns share 3% of the sales tax. And so We did not see a big impact in our first payment. I think in our second payment, the city is seeing about a 50% reduction in what they normally would be getting. Where is going to, internet shopping is now required to be taxable, and they're seeing 137% of the increase in internet shopping. So that's going to be our thing. But I don't think, we don't, our sales tax is a big part of our funding. It's a big number, but we're not going to see the impact of the county.
Right. As Walmart, I just said,
Agreed. When we keep it in local business and stay to the community.
Yeah. I mean, I just want something.
Sometimes you don't have any choice. Yeah. Okay. Yes, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Adam, to fill you in on the first item, the workshop, the meeting, we talked briefly about with there being a public hearing at the next meeting, and the logistics of us meeting together and the microphone, people, not us hearing people, because I have a broadcast through the TV. You will hear when Mary Lou comes in for conversation. But if people hear enough, to stop. So Erin is going to explore the idea of a camera with a separate microphone. If she can achieve that, we'll meet like this. If not, for the next meeting, we'll go back to our meeting at our homes with Zoom. Because I think it would just be better for the residents to be able to hear us. Let's skip over Depot for now, because I'm all Mary Lou. So Erin, why don't you give us a little quick transportation report?
Sure. So I've been looking quite a bit on the transportation, trying to make sure that we are compliant with our contract that we have with the county. Our contract is expiring next year, so we're going to be looking to renew that in the new year, and making sure that that they're happy with us. So there's that bit of it, and then also just the fact that we lost one of our employees recently, and it's a very, very busy time, and a year, and then being short. So I've been talking to Harry, and we are going to install some new signs that I'm working just in a couple of weeks ago, so I'll get close on those on Monday. To make it clear that we do not accept commercial waste at our transportation. And then the other thing that we talked about was replacing, finding someone for that position is open, and then potentially also thinking about having a seasonal, an additional seasonal position so that there would be have more staff in the summer transportation. That would allow them to inspect roads as of this point. And really, right now it's so busy that they are, running back and forth. So that's sort of what we've been discussing. But I think really, we also have some other ideas like extending hours in the evening. Once the Terry said that he would like to see us open more days. But I thought, I think that should be something that we can stop. So just really trying to find a way to make the workload at the transportation more sustainable for the people there so that they can do their job. And I think that's the goal.
And if you haven't seen it, the Recreation Department, kind of piggybacking with Adam, has been doing, we have a Rochester Recreation Department YouTube page. And the last one that they just did is uploaded this week, is featuring Aaron, teaching people about recycling. And I put it up on my page and had so many hits from so many people who said, hey, I learned so much watching this. I mean, one person said, I didn't know pizza boxes were recyclable. I didn't know such and such was recyclable.
It's all in the times, but it's really hard. So at the end of the video, it's interactive. I highly recommend checking it out. We do a little quiz at the end. It's on the, not our YouTube channel, the
Recreation Department has a YouTube channel where they have been doing, kind of at doing some online things for the kids and adults too, teaching them how to, one was how to write a letter and a thank you note. And one was about farming, and one was about people how to grow a bean plant from germination right up all the way through. And they're doing a really great job. And when we decided to kind of expand it to not just kids and adults, include the adults, so Aaron did this great thing on recycling. If anybody has any ideas like that, actually, what we're doing, be investing in really good. The heart and soul behind it. Let's move ahead to the building conditions RFP. I emailed all of you a draft of this, but here's a paper copy if you want. It's a lot of information to know. So, to give you a quick update, by the way, our contract for the IT company, very little okayed, so it was signed yesterday. And it will start Saturday, August 1st. Kate and I met with the owner of the company, Jason, last week. And had a great initial meeting, and he will be our point of contact for the initial evaluation. Once that will be throughout the month of August. By September 1st, they will provide to us a plan of action of equipment that they recommend we purchase and what direction we need to go. I truly think we got the best company after talking to them. They do a lot of fire districts. They understand budgetary issues. I told them, I said, we might only be able to buy some equipment this year and some may have to wait the next year's budget. There's no problem, we'll prioritize. They also are responsible for the 911 system computers for both Orange County and Dutchess County. So they're doing both big and small. And it was very hands-on. He started the company when he was 16, he's in his 30s now. It's small enough, but yet big enough. And so I really think our process works. So the reason I say all that is, supposing we do a similar thing for this RFP, this obviously is a one-shot deal. It's not an ongoing thing, but I think it will work. Presenting this to you now for us to vote on it next Thursday. So. We don't know. Right. But we just like the other one, we'll see what comes in. If we think we can afford it, we do it. If we don't, we just don't award it.
My second question to this is, I spoke to Mr. Dick. I didn't have this. What was going to be proposed, which would be discussed now. Is there any particular reason you couldn't report and give us a 5-year report?
Absolutely. Since
he's not, you know, I had a conversation with Bill. He said, I'm not an engineer. I'm a code enforcement official. You know, he's not an engineer. We need an engineer to do this.
Yeah. We have a fire inspector who's in the building, but we have a man who goes out to look at people's homes to tell them whether their homes are safe to live in.
Right, but he's not trained to design things, and
What are we looking to have to do?
we don't know. We want somebody to do an assessment of all our buildings to tell us what needs to be, you know, top to bottom, everything.
That's his job. That's what he does.
No, it's not.
He doesn't tell them how long their house is going to stand and they're multiple.
No, but when you enter an engineer's bid with a property, they'll come out and they'll say, hey, these are things that are under $1,500 that need to be accomplished right away. If it's in the next year, you better get done or it'll cost you more money. These are things 3 years from now, you better get done. These are things that can move 5 years. And that way we can put a budget. You're going to be able to do that, especially for how many properties we have.
There's 14 buildings. Plus he doesn't price things out. Price doesn't matter. He's looking at does it meet code, does it not meet code. That's one aspect of it. We're looking at maintenance, long-term maintenance. Terry's not looking at maintenance.
When I had you guys come out to my house, they took a look and they said, you know, we have pipes and fit, you know, those are not gonna last. You better get those replaced before they break and you end up with flooding and destroy your house. You know, hey, but the roof's pretty good for maybe 10 years. And they will give you a real plan to go on. Hey, this electric, you gotta code, you gotta get that replaced. Or, hey, you know what, the grading on the house is wrong. If you leave it there, you're gonna end up with damage to the foundation. You know, those are things an engineer can take a look at and give us it's such a nice report because it comes through like a checklist. Then you can say, oh, these are things we have to react to and budget now. These are things we can wait for, but these are things we can't get off the debt.
And part of what we're asking for is a 5-year plan, so that will build our budget for the next 5 years. And we can decide what can we afford, what can't we afford. But it's not, you know, it's not what Jerry does. Plus, he's also beyond swamped. I mean, yes, we just hired a 15-hour fire inspector, but he's already way up, you know, he's already paid for himself multiple times over in his inspections compared to the amount of money we're paying him for 15 hours a week.
I'm just thinking, okay, we did not budget.
I realize we did. We don't have no idea what the number will come out to be either. So we do have fund balance that we could, you know, we have an amount of money from fund balance budgeted for it. Last year, we budgeted a certain number of fund balance towards the budget, and then we didn't even touch it.
But with this being a short 4 years,
By the time we go to award this, if you look at by the time we go to award it, the reason I'm pushing to get it done now is so we can include the dollar amount of the repair stuff in next year's budget, which we have to have done by the end of October.
I think this is different, you know, the difference between being a fireman and a fire inspector. You know, if we do this, we can put out a fire before it starts. If we don't, then like the fuel oil tank out here will go all over the place and could have been an absolute disaster. That could have been identified and replaced in a report. The same thing, you know, with the roof on the quarterback. You know, if we let it go too long, it's not just shingles, it's shingles and plywood. If we have and who knows, I know for the houses that I buy, it's right around $1,000. If it comes in 14 grand, this thing will save us, you know, $100,000 over the next 5 years.
I think what I'm looking at is you're looking, I don't know, 14,000, 150.
Well, but until we don't know though until we see the prices. When we see the prices, if it comes back 150, but if it comes back 150, we're not forced to do anything. If it comes back at 150, we go, whoa, we can't do this. And we don't.
Remember, the other piece of this too is also taking a look at our insurance, was making sure that either A, we're not overpaying for our insurance, or B, we're not undervalued, and we lose the bill when we're paying.
And there is a list from the insurance company of items, checklist items that they want us to do in the very near future, and some of them would be items that probably top of the list, at least having the inspection. Not necessarily, you know, one of the things he said is, when's the last time the roof of the town hall was inspected? And I don't know.
We don't carry an insurance policy for any of our buildings that go up 2% a year or anything like that to allow us as the buildings, everybody thinks the building depreciates, I don't think it necessarily does.
No,
But as the building may update, do we ever build that into any of our expenses?
we have full coverage on all the buildings. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't say. $150,000 for a building, okay? Does the next year maybe it go up to 160?
The value of the building?
Yeah. Do they ever? My homeowners goes up every year.
Oh, yeah.
Replacement
Oh,
value.
for replacement value, yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's every year when we renew our insurance policy, it's snapshot at that moment.
I think that this is really, really valuable. But I agree with you, you get that. You should all kind of think. Got it, thanks, and what would you see on this? You know, this is what I am also letting you know. And I also see that people that need to be saving money in the time that would be very important. If you don't want to be in a situation where all of a sudden we have $200,000 problems with that.
And for the last at least 10 years, and probably longer, we've been very responsive to when an issue pops up. But there's been no, see, the reason I'm pushing this more for the 5-year plan, because they can now come in, do an analysis, and you know, I keep bringing it up, but where I got the idea was when I was on the school board, and schools are required to do this. Every 5 years, you're required to have a new 5-year capital management plan for your physical. So, for some reason, municipalities aren't required. Why they aren't and schools are, except that schools are clearly a much more expensive building and much more expensive infrastructure than municipalities. Because of the volume and the size and everything that comes with it. But
It was interesting when the three of us went to that new council person who elected official training. It was in regard to highways, but they had the guy up there saying, yeah, you know, you have to do the roads X amount of years, because if you don't, then they deteriorate, cost you so much more. So it's better off to stay ahead of the curve. Again, I keep going back to the fuel tank that leaked out here. That's something that an inspector would identify and said, hey, that thing's got, you got to replace it. And, you know, it's going to save us a lot of money. What's next around the corner? So what they take a look at our heating system, they say, this thing's ready to go. You guys are ready on this. Or what if they say, hey, you get 3 or 4 more years and not bring that up? At least we'll know. Right now, everything we do is blind. You know, we don't know.
React.
they react.
We're all
Right, right.
But you're reacting.
But you're right, 150,000.
Yeah. And I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that. I'll be honest, I have no concept of what it costs. Putting the sound on, no. And worst case is when we get all the bids back, we can do the scoring and we can go, oh, we can't afford it.
You're gonna give us so much. I think
I am.
there's something coming.
I am. But, you know, take a look, read through it, see if you think there's anything in here that shouldn't be here, anything that shouldn't be here. I kind of used the same format as the last one, except I made because the other one was an ongoing service, I made the pricing a little more important in percentage-wise in this than the actual, because we're getting a one-shot report, and they're not going to stay with us as a consultant for the next 2 or 3 years.
This is the one that that we want to find.
Well, yeah, one of the deliverables is a 5-year plan of what they identify as, you know, year 1, these are your priorities, year 2, these are your goals, year 3, 4, 5. It will. He does it right now.
Highlight it, so we don't miss out on two bids.
Yeah, no, it's not on here, but it is included in the,
Sticky note on the front.
yeah. I don't mind sending it. I have her email. Oh, I just found my agenda that I misplaced. I stapled it to my RFP. When I was stapling. So anyway, take a look at it during the week. I'll put it up on the agenda for next week. We can kick it around some more, make some changes, but, and the dates are with the expectation that we would adopt it next meeting, because that way we can get them, we can get it done in September, get them to look at it, so on budget time, we can include, yeah, we can include the numbers in our budget. Yeah, there's a whole schedule in there. Oh, the time frame of when we wanted it, no. But we would approve it, with this schedule September 24th. And then in the contract, we would make them do this. Oh, yes, please, is that very good?
Maybe. The phone number was 917, 914.
Yes, unmute.
Huh?
Yeah.
No, it's good. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, now I hear you.
Oh. Great. Okay. I did not know that.
No,
Oh, I don't know. I can do a little research. I don't think we probably are, but maybe we are. September, yeah, the September 24th would be at the workshop meeting. September would be when we award this. Then when we do the contract with them, we would ask for the work to be completed by October 31st. We could, at last minute, yes. We could even do it sooner. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tight. Remember too, B, that larger projects like this might involve projects. I mean, if we suddenly have to redo the entire HVAC system, that's gonna be a 5-year bonding situation. So the budget won't matter until next year. The initial, we're just gonna borrow the money and not pay it till 2022. Right, well, we got it, you know, we need the first part is we need. Are you there? Are you hearing us, Mario?
I can only hear Mike, and everybody else just sounds like far away background noise.
Okay. Well, that's because I'm the closest and I'm probably the loudest. So why don't we move to the things that involve you so we can, you can move on, because I know you're going away tomorrow. So.
Thank you.
So the first is the fire inspector vehicle, Accord Fire District. To fill the board in, we have obviously a new 15-hour-week fire inspector. He is an Accord Fire District officer. And this is the vehicle that they provide for him for his duties as a fire. We have a vehicle for the code enforcement, don't have a vehicle for him. I have conversations with them, they will allow us under shared services to utilize fire district vehicle in the course of duty as that we pay for that. What they already get their fuel from us, the fire district fuel all their vehicles there because then we bill them I'm proposing to pay for all of that vehicle. And in return, they will provide the vehicle. The only caveat, very loosely, I need to check what our insurance agent to determine that our insurance will cover that vehicle or what we need to get it covered when he's acting on the county. That's the only drawback. What I'm asking for this, and I'm asking just for the approval to write the letter to the Port Fire Commission to propose this idea. Maybe in August, they'll tell us. But I have had verbal conversations with some of them, and they seem to be in the mindset that everything okay. Yeah, this way we don't have to buy a vehicle. Kind of came up when he and I were talking. I said, you know, what are we going to do with cheaper vehicles? And then we kind of ran with it. So, you want to do a motion tonight? You want to, they don't need to after our next meeting, so we can wait until the next meeting. Yeah. Okay, so I'll make the motion to authorize the supervisor to send correspondence to the Ackport Fire District requesting use of William Farrell's fire district vehicle in return for his position as town fire inspector. In return, town of Rochester will provide all fuel for the vehicle for the remainder of the year. And this is pending the approval by the town's insurance. Forget anything in that, Mary Lou?
I think you had everything, but it's very garbled, but it sounded like you got it all.
Thank you. So, that being said, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to default. I'm getting probably in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 calls a day about traffic, about parking, about garbage. Yesterday was a brand new one. Music until all hours of the morning. Somebody showed up and swimming in at the start with a very loud boom box. I can tell you, 2 Sundays ago, I went downstairs. There were 52 cars, 2 motorcycles, and I probably estimated 12 to 200. Normally, you know, a normal summer day, we'll see 5, 6, 7 cars. Next meeting, we're having the public hearing. We made more of it no parking. We did explore the guardrail option. Some of the neighbors are advocating to make the entire road no parking. Come to the public hearing or send in written comments, make it so. A lot of people are, you know, they understand it's tradition that people swim there and they're okay with it, but one guy is going to post all brand new beside the wall and come out and they're on his side. I'm at a loss for, you know, we're not the only people that have swimming hole in it. Rosendale hasn't closed theirs. High Falls is controlled by Central Hudson. Central Hudson. However, the parking and the garbage issue, Central Hudson is paying for a security guard to be there. No, and it's tons of dirty diapers. I mean, the other day I witnessed somebody rolling off a barbecue grill And, another guy pulling up a catering can. Okay. Gonna hang it. Yeah, it is privately owned, the landowner is not local, I did a little research, it has been in that landowner over 100. They are beyond, those, the tax bill goes to the rest on the west coast. Not on their radar to be concerned about it. I question what kind of liability they would have if somebody were to be injured, but I could try to reach out to the owner and see if I can get any feedback. But the only way I know how to is by letter, because we don't have phone numbers and email. Well, what we're proposing is right now is the entire west side of the road is already no parking, the whole distance. East side, for the most part, people are honoring that. I have only seen one car parked on the west side this entire summer. People that are going there they are policing that.
Are you telling me there's room for 50 cars on each side?
Yep. Yep. They were end to end, all the way down to the,
I would have that space.
well, we can't, but if we make the no parking areas that we propose for the next public hearing, it will limit it to probably in the neighborhood of 15 to 16 cars. And once they're there, that will be it. There won't be any more parking than that space.
But what are we going to do?
Well, Mary Lou has looked into, we already have towing on the books. What we don't have is a system in place. It also, ironically, I'm not sure how it got this way, supervisors oftentimes from death go down and find somebody roadway, all the tow company that we have set up. No, it doesn't need anything further than us setting up the towing. That's very look into the process of how to set one up for us. I don't think it involves any local laws. So once we make the parking area, the enforcement, then I can get that authority to staff and I can come up with it. And also the country. It would apply to anywhere there's no parking area. It doesn't mean that they're gonna get a parking ticket, but we're gonna eliminate the problem. Yeah. Right. Well, excuse me, we can, once we establish and the state police already have them some in our area, so we probably back off them. Wouldn't it, they would, the people would then go to them to get their vehicle back. The people would be responsible for the towing cost, storage cost. The way it's set up is only if people then it comes from out. Yeah.
Hello? Can I make a suggestion? Is there any way to put the computer closer to you so the audio is better? It's not really necessary to see you guys. It's more important to hear what you're saying, and nobody can hear you.
Can you weigh in?
Mike,
Yes.
it's Mary Lou. I'm having a lot of difficulty hearing over the phone. I don't know how it is on YouTube, but you're cutting in and out, and I can't hear the other board members.
Question, Mary Lou. If I move the computer closer, then we don't have the video. Is that legal?
Yes, it is, because you can do it telephonically. You don't have to do it by video.
Okay.
So I think you'd be okay. I think it's better to be able to hear you than see you.
Okay. We'll do that then. We're gonna have to take a real brief recess because we're gonna have to reestablish everything here. I do not. It's also I'm not gonna be able to plug into the TV anymore. We're gonna have to be on the screen. We'll find out.
Mike, who was speaking before?
We're right in the middle here. I probably need to switch it to the speakers here though, because it's on those speakers. No, I don't need the extension cord. Do you know how to switch the speakers, Chris? Because it's on the.
Go right back on there, and I think F2 is the volume.
No, but I mean, the speakers are connected right now to the HDMI port. Really? Because it had asked me to set the settings when I started. Okay.
Right back to the computer.
Can you guys hear us now?
I can hear you, and I kind of heard, I think, Chris in the background, but I couldn't understand what he was saying.
It's only through the HDMI port now.
So you get the settings on the computer or
Through the computer.
Okay. So you have to go to audio settings?
Yeah, I just have to get there without losing the Zoom. Control panel. Sound. It is on speakers.
They
That's
can't
what
hear
I'm
us,
saying.
it's the mic too. It would be the mic.
Okay, Erin, I hear you now.
It'll drop down to 0 and get itself out.
Ah, good point.
I still perform when I know because I know what I'm.
Microphone, main volume.
I would tell them wrong.
Mary Lou, can you hear us now?
I can hear you very clearly. Have somebody else talk.
We've moved the camera, we moved it so there's no more camera. We moved it so it's right in the middle of the room. And you should be able to hear us and we should be able to hear you. I just have to get the settings back to the computer. So, okay, so Chris, go ahead and say what you were saying again, please.
So what I like about the 34 acres is as the county free, out of the county not swimming, but waiting area to be a photo, one swimming area. Over there.
On that property there?
You can remember.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to really investigate insurance costs for that.
It's not like
Because,
a short term.
yeah, because I know Marbletown, part of the reason they shut down their swimming a few years ago was the cost of insurance. I don't know if they know. Yeah, because then you have to have lifeguards, it opens up a whole can of worms. So
how do we?
I don't know, we'll have to figure that out. But
Because if you bring people in there, have you ever done a study on the island?
We're working on bird.
Yeah.
This year.
I know that, but they won't be able to speak. Not too much.
they'll come and go.
It's curious.
Well, I think the point that Chris is trying to make is that right now we see the swimming hole being overrun as a problem. And it's true right now, it is creating tension and conflict in our community. But the point too is that there's an opportunity here to think about ways that we can create spaces that people are welcome, that it is not concept building, because there is a need for that in our community, and it's not a short-term solution, but it is something for us to think about long-term, that like people want to be outside, outdoors in a place here in our town, and that if we create that, it could be positive.
If you could create it, and then you do not come in and defecate all over it, it would be a lovely thing. But this is what they do, they bring in the garbage, they don't even have the, I don't know, the decency, and if there's that many people in that water for a long amount of time,
Well,
how much do you think's going on in that
but
water?
it's not, right now, it's totally unmanaged.
Exactly.
If there was a situation where we would be more like Minnewaska or or Mohawk, where it's more managed.
Again, it might be a stretch or, but, parking meters and a dump, where, you park and the parking meters can pay for the dumpster,
And
Well, we don't have that kind of.
I know,
property.
it's not even our space, but
and a
at least
$40.
starting to, before coming into this meeting, I'm like, B, shut it down, no posting, call them out of there. But you make a good point. We have a very desirable area. How can we, take the tension
And
out?
what
I don't
bothers
know.
me is the state put a brand new trailhead into the north.
Yeah,
Where is the atmos?
Well, in any.
They've all
in
been
any
shut
national
down
park,
because of
there's
COVID.
a lot There's privy, you can get to a privy if you go over 2 miles in, but that's people who are participating in it. Usually the DEC will never put a privy on.
But the state,
I kind of know my way
the
around.
state has
the
shut
woods, so
down
I
the
would
ones-
know what to do, not to leave it for everyone.
Not to put it in the water.
but the state has shut down the places, Minnewaska, there's no bathroom facilities like that. Many of them,
Looking at it.
and that's all,
Looking at
yeah. And certainly back, part of it is the state is creating a parking area, but they're creating a parking area that they're not going to do day-to-day or even week-to-week maintenance of. They're creating a parking area which is very great compared to what used to be there. I mean, it more than quadrupled the number of cars that can park there. And it's full.
I know.
So I think, I want to see a vision for the future where we have the bathroom buildings on the 34 acres, education about not putting things in the water. But for this point, I think we.
Well, let's hear what the public has to say. We'll start with the way the local law is written currently, which the proposed is the no parking with the parking at the depot property proper, which means from property line to property line of depot property as being a parking area. And that will accommodate probably, like I said, in the neighborhood of 15, 16, 17 cars. And once past that,
And you said Mary was mentioning. So we set a time to close that area.
No,
Somebody could say, no.
no, we don't own the property.
But could we say it's parking only between these hours?
That's what I mean, and we do something like that.
We would have to amend the law, but yeah.
Parking on
Yeah.
dusk.
Yeah, but the area, people that are coming after hours are less the issue than it's just the volume. I suspect that, on a hot summer day, that's gonna fill up in seconds. Minutes. Yeah. Mary Lou, are you still there? Mary Lou?
I'm here.
Okay. Do you have any input in this in terms of the options of what the town can do?
You know, you just go on the internet, you see this is everywhere. Everyone's having the same problem. One of my questions is on the litter, do we know whether it's on the streets, which is bad enough? Is it also at the site of these people's property?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I don't know that they'll be able to do anything because they're trying on all their own sites, but there are regulations, and I don't, I can't convey to you exactly what they are, but there are DEC regulations that DEC can enforce should things be happening that could affect the waterways.
Well, we actually, in our solid waste law, we have sections that I discovered that also involve litter and waterways.
Right.
And I did have a lengthy conversation with Mr. Davis about this. The problem was after I posted my post on Facebook 2 Sundays ago, 4 or 5 people went in there and pulled out 10 bags of garbage the next day and more or less cleaned it up, which is great, but that's a short-term solution because I suspect.
Well, right. It's a short-term solution, and you also don't know who was doing, we don't know who was actually littering. I mean, that's something to get in touch with I heard you talking before about trying to get in touch with the property owners. I mean, it may be a letter from Jerry, say,
He is
going out and taking some pictures from the road next time, after this accumulates again, and sending this to them and saying this is a violation.
He already is considering that, and that was his comment.
Okay.
He said I was ready to do that, and then you got it cleaned up, so I don't have any pictures. So.
Right.
Well, it's not, but it's the property is their responsibility,
But hadn't they before, just if they don't want to?
If they posted it no trespassing, then we could enforce no trespassing.
And that's not the case now.
No. It's not posted
I
no
don't mean,
trespassing.
I mean the border. I understand that the people who.
Talking at Deep Hole proper, where people swim.
They're out of touch with the world.
But that's my point is it's not posted no trespassing. So if it's posted no trespassing and we observe it, we can enforce it, I believe. I don't know if that.
I'm not sure if we can,
Okay.
because it's still private property.
Private property.
Could we have like riverkeeper or ask riverkeeper someone to do some water monitoring of you were saying, Mary, someone just said something about if the water is being negatively impacted by that.
And then if you have that many people in there, you're not gonna tell me that things are not going.
No, and there's people are showing up with these big rubber rafts and those pool noodle things.
Oh my goodness.
People come now, when I went by 2 Sundays ago, there was lounge chair after lounge chair after lounge chair on the far bank. I've never seen that many people on the other side of the creek. It was just wall to wall people. What?
Can we make it permitted? Can we
Make what
require
permitted?
them to get a permit?
No, because we don't own the property.
It's not our property, B.
We shall be.
No, I was.
Monetized, and I like the way you're thinking.
Well, there's very little we can do except stop people from parking. The only place we have control over is the road. It's the paved edge to paved edge and the drainage ditch. And that is all we have
Yep.
to do. But we can make it no parking. We do have somewhat control over the garbage in that we can enforce and I know it's not fair to the property owners, but maybe if the property owners suddenly get a violation notice and have to answer to a
If
fine,
the no-show property owners get one, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about.
that's what I'm talking about.
meant. I was more concerned.
No, not the neighboring property owners. They don't have the volume of garbage. The garbage is on the default property. People come to swim and they just leave their stuff. I bet if you walk down there right now, you find about a half a dozen of those styrofoam coolers. People buy them at the dollar store or wherever for $2 or $3. They don't care if they leave them behind.
So I'll give you just a quick case study. There's a great beach and park in Connecticut. Beautiful, pristine, nature preserve, couldn't be nicer. But at the beginning of the beach, there's an unsightly dumpster that's been there for years. It's smelly and it's a crap when you first go there. So one summer they decided to get rid of the dumpster and enforce a strict carry in, carry out policy. That beach has never been dirtier for a year. They put the garbage has got to go somewhere. I wish people were great. They police themselves. They're not. But if they have a place to put the garbage, they'll most likely put it. I don't know. I haven't been down there in a while. I don't know if we have the ability. I don't know what it would cost. But again, I'd rather, in a short-term solution for the next 6 weeks, put a dumpster down there that we put the bill for, than have the garbage in the river. Than have a styrofoam cooler floating down the river or dirty diapers, in the river.
I agree.
But again, just a thought for public comment.
So our public hearing on this, on the law next week, Mike?
Yes,
So let's see what people say. Let's see if anyone has any other ideas. I mean, last time we had the public come in to speak about this years ago when we were switching parking, it was really, really beneficial.
two years ago, which was when we did this, we had planned on no parking on both sides of the road 100%. And out of that thing came an impassioned plea, basically, of the people who use Depot. And we said, okay, no parking on the west side. And I will say, people are abiding by that. The west side of the road is not being parked on. It's only the creek side. But many of the people, there's a section of the property itself. There's enough room to get your car off the pavement and you're not blocking traffic. Your mirror might be sticking out, but you're off the road. As soon as you get past that area, it gets less and less and less of a shoulder to the point that there's cars 100% on the road. I mean, I went there about a month ago when I stood at the top and I introduced myself and said, everybody parked on the right side. Thank you. You did a great job. Everybody on the left side, you got to move your car. And I came back an hour later and two of them had moved their cars. One guy left and one guy left his car right there. So, some people will comply, and I've driven by and I've asked people, hey, can you get more up the road if I see them parking? Now, I'm not trying to keep the swimming hole away from people, but we can't get the road closed down, and we gotta get ahead of the garbage. The poor neighbors are just overwhelmed. They can't drive down the road. They're afraid of hitting somebody. People just walk down the middle of the road. They in their minds, they're on vacation. Well, yeah, and we welcome them, but they gotta understand that the road it is a public road, needs to stay open too.
Is there anywhere, Mike, I don't know if there is anywhere that we could put up cameras and put up the no littering signs, the no parking signs, and put up signs say video surveillance. We will prosecute.
We talked about this before. Kate brought this up. We actually don't have a no littering law. We only have a solid waste law.
Right, but there's probably a state no littering law.
Okay.
We can look at that.
Yeah.
And if not, let's do a no littering law.
Yep, it's on my list too, but we're not gonna get it done before the end of the summer now, so.
No, I understand that, but you know what? It's already August on Saturday, so,
No, I think, you know,
and-
there was a lot of hope that people would self-police, but I think the people we're preaching to, the people we're talking to are willing to self-police. It's,
yeah, and I think the local people probably self-police. And it's, you know, people come from out of the area, just like every other swimming hole around here or in the Catskills.
yeah,
What about?
they're doing it. When they're up at 4455, I have authorized them to come through there, and they are. And that Sunday, when I saw the 52 cars, Rich told me that they were through there at about 2:30, 3 o'clock. I went through at 3:45. And I will say, of those 52 cars, there were probably only 5 or 6 that were really impeding the traffic.
Do you think that if there was some consequence of parking on the road?
Well, that's where, once we pass the no parking area, Mary Lou has said that I can then authorize the towing, but we have to get the vendors set up. And I'm hoping that between now and next week, Mary Lou can tell us how to do that.
I know this isn't, I'm not suggesting this is the only solution, but one of my employees who's young told us about this swimming hole that he went to, and it was deep hole. And it was, I think, this crazy day, because he didn't understand that this is a private property. You know, when he told us at work, and then we were like, oh man, this is what is happening. He was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I was participating in this thing that's causing distress to people. And it made me think, yeah, it's a private property. It's not like you're going to a state park or something. A lot of people are hearing about this place and they're coming, not knowing what the situation is. So I wonder too if on the side where people are allowed to park, we could also maybe put up a sign that says, this is the town of Rochester, this is a private property, you know, there are neighbors, please be respectful.
Can we do that, Mary Lou? Because I thought about that, posting a sign that said, you know, be aware you are entering private property, not public property or
Well, I
something.
mean, we can't do it on the property. The question is, where do we do it? We can't put it in, you know.
Well, we
we
can put it along the roadside, right? Can we put a sign?
Yeah.
Traffic.
I really like that idea because I never knew you couldn't have any tires on the road. And so I thought when I went to Michigan, there must be a sign that says no tires on the road. That doesn't say that. But if we said, don't pollute our waters because this leads to the health of that's really simple.
It's not so much that you can't have tires on the road, it's just as soon as you have tires on the road, it is a narrow road. So it eliminates, if it was a wider road and you had tires on the road and two-way traffic could still flow, it would be no problem.
But
That road is only, I measured it, I believe it's a 16-foot or a 17-foot road.
I know a sign isn't gonna keep everybody from, you know, but I think some people might see that and go, oh, this is a neighborhood, I should be respectful, I shouldn't, you know, I think some people will read something like
You
that.
want to help me come up with the language and I'll talk to Jeff about it. We got to keep it short
Yeah.
so it's sizable.
Yeah.
And, because, yeah, we're not going to put a billboard up.
Right.
Yeah, just let me see whatever you are planning to put on that sign so I can be sure it's good.
It's a 10-day turnaround minimum to get the sign. So by the time we do this, it's going to be almost the end of summer anyway, but worth a shot.
Right, but you know what? At least we're getting, you know, as much as I'd love to see a solution this summer, I don't know how likely that is to happen, but let's work on it now so it's solved before next summer.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the neighbors, for the most part, when they call me, they understand the problem that our hands are tied. And they really get that. And many of them have been very happy that, you know, they see what we're trying to do. They understand, you know, they hear us talk about it, and they have
been very understanding to a point, but it's a major impact to the direct neighbors, but even when you go further down the road, one way or the other, it's an impact to everybody on that road. Because people get in the stream and they wander down the stream because to them, we're just exploring.
Yep.
They realize that they're now really trespassing.
Yep.
And the one guy told me yesterday, he was told, he's only here, he's from Montauk, he's here once in a while. His family has the property, has had it for years. He was going to the hardware store yesterday to get a whole new set of no trespassing signs and was going to remount them. He said the last time they did it was 3 years ago, and most of them had either been torn down, fallen off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the board, is there any other questions that you have for Mary Lou? If not, on the agenda, I'd like us to talk about the land use committee referrals for sure. The other stuff is a little less important that we speak about tonight. Because I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and we're that's not complicated about it. So, Mary Lou, do you have anything for us?
Nothing that can't wait till next week.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna, I have some things, that I'll be writing you guys memos about, certain things that have come up over the last month or two, that you guys have asked me, to look into. So I will get something out to you guys early next week. And, but nothing pressing that I need you guys to do something right away.
Okay. So if you could, Mary Lou, the biggest priority for me is if you could try to figure out the towing contract and what we have to do, and we have to go out to bids.
Yep.
If we can just establish, 3 or 4 companies without going out to bids. I don't know.
I've got that written down.
It's not town money, so I don't know if we have to go out to bids as long as we establish a rate. So, yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Mary Lou.
All right, take care, guys.
Okay.
See you next week.
All right, bye-bye.
From the committee, I emailed this to everybody the other day. These are the reports that they have sent to us. I didn't print the reports out. They're so these are 3 different correspondences that we've received from the land use committee. I'll tell you, since we started re-meeting, we've been meeting pretty regularly every month. I mean, excuse me, every week. Although we did take a 2-week break last
We
time.
took 1 week off.
So the first recommendation is regarding the open space plan, the natural heritage plan, and the historical resources report. And it involves making them as amendments. She says amendments to the comprehensive plan. It's not amendments. It's what was the word you used?
Addendum.
Addendum. Thank you. That's the word I was trying to think of. They become part of the addendum. They're standalone reports, but they become part of the addendum. So that is the first part. And then also she went through the goals of the comp plan. It was the first meeting. What we did is we went through them and sort of identified which ones we thought have been achieved and which ones have not been achieved. So that's the first part. What that would mean is we would have to amend our comp plan to include those. We would have to hold a public hearing on that. We would have to refer it to the county planning board for review and comment. And then after such time, we could amend our comp plan to add those as a
This would be done by us.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, these are just recommendations. Next is the short-term transient rentals. It is a recommendation of a new section of code in the zoning code, a new subchapter. It was based on the work done by the former committee that presented this to the town board in 17. It went to public hearing. There was a fair amount of issue and controversy, and it was a fairly well attended public hearing, and then the town board never did anything else. And then fast forward to this. So the committee took that report, took some of the input from that public hearing, took some what we know more now about short-term rentals than we knew back then, and applied some. So this is an actual local, would be a local law that would amend Chapter 140 zoning. Obviously, it has not been looked at by Mary Lou yet. She would have to look at it, tell us if anything in there can't be done. Certainly, we can tweak any of the language we want, but this is proposed to us as an amendment to Chapter 140. And it's up to us to look at it and decide if we want to change anything in it, any wording. It does. The basis of it is that there will be a permit that will be required. And there will be an annual fee for that permit that we would set the fee as a town board, just like we set all other fees.
Because that was the biggest complaint.
Yep.
Besides that, that was my first thing on board. Agreement, they didn't want to have to pay for it.
Right. Well, this would be,
Partly because they already paid tax.
well, the county is bed tax. This
Yeah, I mean-
this is a safety inspection permit. The reason being is these are still residential structures. The town has no legal authority or ability to go into anyone's home and review, even if they are using it. It's just because they're making money doesn't make it a commercial use. It's still a residential use. Even an approved regular bed and breakfast is a residential use. Even a multifamily is a residential use. It's a mixture of residential and commercial both. But multifamily and bed and breakfast require annual, or maybe it's every other year, that I'm not sure. They require an inspection by the code enforcement officer and now the fire inspector, and they can't be denied. For somebody's private residence, we can't knock on the door and say, we want to come in and inspect. The problem is many of the sleeping areas that are made do not have the proper egress and ingress in the event of an emergency. If something is on the third floor, there's not proper way to get out of somebody's home. If something is in the basement, there's not proper way. They may lack smoke detectors. They may lack a number of things. So what the safety inspection would be is they would go in and review it against that criteria. And then,
And also, in addition, this kind of piggybacks on our depot discussion. Right now, it's a completely unregulated thing that's going on in our town that we don't know what is happening, where they're located, and we get complaints, reports of parties, littering, there's all this stuff that's going on in some of these rentals, and neighbors don't have they don't really, and so that's part of it too, is that we can put some standards to say, these are the standards, the posted rules, things like that, that like just create a more equitable relationship with them.
and if you read through the local law, most of it is about the application and the permit process of what you have to tell us when you fill out the permit. I mean, it's basic information like, contact information. One thing we added that wasn't in the previous one was hosting platform information. We want to know where you're advertising, so at least we have a vague idea of what's being, fire and safety compliance, parking. We want to make sure there's proper parking. We want to set your maximum occupancy. We don't want a place that's designed for, a family of 4 and suddenly there's 15 people staying there every weekend. We want to make sure water and septic are appropriate, garbage removal. The big thing was house rules. We want to make sure that the house rules are conveyed to the people coming to stay there. It's not really that onerous, and certainly we can figure out what the fee should really only cover the cost of our fire inspectors to go do it.
And an application.
And the processing of the application. So, I mean, in reality, we're probably talking of a fee less than $100 for a year. Many of these places are getting that for that. So it's where it may hurt is the person that, rents out their place 5, 6, 7 times a year. But we know for a fact, based on the county information, that there's over 100 short-term rentals in the town of Rochester. And that was 2 years ago. I'm guessing the numbers have decreased. So take a look at it, see what you think. I think it's reasonable. It's not as onerous as some other. Many of them are making limitations on the number of permits that will be issued. I don't feel strongly or I kind of do feel strongly that that's not fair, because then it's a first come first served thing. And some are requiring that it be your residence. We know of many places where people buy the home and just rent it out as a short-term rental. And the county has brought up time and time again the concern of affordable housing. Because as buildings become available, if they're bought for short-term rentals, we're losing them to the housing market.
So one idea that I think is in the letter, one idea we had wasn't limiting the number of permits in the town, but perhaps one thing we could do as a board is limit the number of permits per occupant, so that someone can't have 10 Airbnb permits or something like, I don't know, we'd have to think about the number. That way we're like specifically saying that we do not encourage,
I was very much opposed to this initially 2 years ago. Partly before I met my wife and I finally started saving money 2 years ago because of this. We also look at our bills, and we both are full-time salary hard workers and still struggle to pay for it. Suddenly we have this new source of income. Everyone wants to keep it. The county's getting their money every month from us. We're a super host, so the point 2 years ago was the regulatory feedback from the customers is very intense. So if we get 4 stars instead of 5, less people will book. If we're messy or we don't go along, the reviews are better. So in a way, it regulates itself. If there's garbage everywhere, they get bad reviews. So I feel like I want people to be successful in our town, but it's also a complicated issue where my studio, if we had full time, we'd probably get $800 a month. But if we get $1,500 a month, this is helping us a lot. I don't want to hurt them.
No, but I think,
But I think this also, to a certain degree, that we had somebody renting out an old boat on the property, somebody renting out their treehouse, a yurt in the backyard, things like that. So
Mike convinced me the fire issue is
thank you.
in favor.
I felt that.
The safety issue aspects of it. And that's why take a look, see what you think is realistic. Now, one other thing that was suggested, and this actually, I think would involve that we would have to go to the state legislature to be able to do it, is a local short-term transient rental tax. That was just one idea that came out of the committee to sort of help fund infrastructure that the influx of people would need. But it is a long process to get the ability to do it. You have to go through the state to do it. It's not just, we can't just do a local law and add a tax.
That's a great point. knew that some of my money was going towards Rochester being the tourism center.
Right. Right. And you talk about like, you know, wayfaring signage and stuff. If we took that, if we were to institute that fee, see, my feeling is the application fee for the inspection just covers the inspection and the processing of it, and is a reasonably priced inspection fee, and it's a once a year fee, or you know, whatever we decide that the case may be, or every other year, or whatever we decide. That's just paying for that fire and safety inspection. But if we were to implement this other thing, we could put that toward a fund to signage improvement, or, I mean, yeah, it's kind of endless what we could do.
I think the biggest complaint with that part N5, you mentioned the imprisonment.
That was.
Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
That was.
And that's the legal aspect of it that has to be in there. Well, it doesn't have to be, but it gives the judge that ability in an extreme circumstance.
On default.
Yeah,
That
you're not
was
gonna
the
be
biggest-
automatically in prison.
That was, I remember.
Many laws, every law has to have a penalty phase, and many laws
This
have
isn't-
that.
This
word.
isn't like, oh, your house rules aren't posted clearly enough, you're gonna go to jail. That's not what that is. Like,
Yeah, that's if you don't pay these three things.
well, also, like, if you're renting out like a unsafe, illegal structure, and you receive a violation notice, a violation
continue to
against
do
it,
it.
and you continue to do that. I mean, I think the thing that I learned through this process is that there aren't places for people to stay here. We all benefit from the tourism and the influx of people in our community, but on the flip side, if we allow that to go unchecked, there's an impact on our community. One, that people are coming here and receiving the services and the nature and everything, using everything that's in our community, so we have to make sure that we can maintain that and keep it for both visitors and residents. And, you know, additionally, there's the safety issue, and the septic issue is an environmental issue, that we just want to make sure that we're maintaining this beautiful place so that we can continue to welcome people here. And I like the idea of the tax going towards, you know, tourism, or, you know, really sort of, like, I really like that idea, because that's the whole, you know, that's what we want.
And the key is, and we stress this by moving it up, this is considered in terms of zoning an accessory use to a residential property. So your property stays residential, it's not gonna change your property taxes. The tax you may have to pay is the bed tax, which is county charges a lodging tax. They are of the view that you are operating lodging, so they view, the town has nothing to do with that, except, and we will have to actually add it in our law. I just remembered the county does mandate that you include a section just about the bed tax.
Oh, okay.
If you adopt the local law. They made that, in order for us to get the list that we got 2 years ago of the properties, we had to agree to, if we did adopt the local law, put that in. And I forgot about that section. But by staying accessory use, people are not going to get reassessed. They're not going to be suddenly treated as a commercial property. It's still a residential homeowner property.
And-
It's like a home occupation.
Right, and as long as you're following, as long as you're not leasing out like a tent or a camper,
Yeah.
it's completely allowed. Like, all you have to do is the application and get the permit.
Well, that's one thing, Chris, we did want to try to do. We wanted to limit it to physical structure. So, because we don't want something that's in somebody's backyard, suddenly become.
I remember the CEO of Tenter.
Yeah, he's from Olive.
Yeah.
One of the main guys, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot.
Yeah. So, it's a website that helps a property owner create a pad with a tent, it's like glamping. But they give you instructions on how to get rid of people. So they're smart about it. And realize that some people just can be in their.
Well, I will say, in this proposal, we did not, we thought we discussed it and agreed that we did not want people outdoor tent camping. Now, if the board feels we want that, then we would have to adjust this accordingly.
And I think that it would, because I brought it up because I have stayed at Timber Site and I love them. But it would, if the board wanted to do that, we need to add a lot to make sure that it was done in the right way.
Well, we would have to add a section, I think, on tent camping, which we could easily do. Yeah.
But just so it doesn't, it's not a campground, so that there is a way.
It would have to have the proper, one of the big things we put in here that was discussed in the house rules is notifying the people of the boundaries of the property and having it flagged in some way. Because when people just go walking through the woods, they don't know that they suddenly crossed over onto the neighbor's land. And, one of the biggest complaints we get, there's one where there's an Airbnb, Becky just told me she got a call from the landowner. They had joined a stream and they built a trail to the stream that is on the neighbor's property. It's a little creek, it's like a pond more than a stream. And to the point that they have even left beach, play toys and things there. They're encouraging people to trespass on their neighbor's property and swim in their pond. And the neighbors have called and said, I know there's not much you can do about it, but, and Becky told them that we're working on this and, they have, but it's,
Unfortunately, if you're staying in a place that's telling you you can go swim there, you may be thinking that
Yeah.
trespassing signs don't apply.
Exactly. I
You know, I
mean,
think
the owners are encouraging people to go swim in their neighbor's pond.
If I banded that person will be very clear as to where they're.
Well, I don't want to name names, but I do, the person and it is being made clear. So they're gonna have a conversation with the neighbor.
I'll bet.
Yeah, so,
See, that's the way that it would normally be done. There wouldn't be any.
then the next item that was just referred to us in the original open space plan, actually in the Natural Heritage Plan, there were two recommendations of critical environmental areas to be formed in the town of Rochester. One is the Bly Swamp area, which if you look at the map is mostly in Rochester, a little bit in Olive, and a little bit in Marbletown. It is a very, very environmentally sensitive area. We have made it R5 in our current zoning, and it's basically exactly what I said. It's a swamp. It has some very unique hardwoods and trees, and so we could list this as a critical environmental area. So any project that happened near that area, I think it's within 500 feet of that area, would have to undergo a little stricter review to make sure it has no impact. Under seeker, there's a question that is this, I don't know if the word's adjacent or what it is, to a critical environmental area. The other area, the RA6, is a continuation of Warsing's area that comes up from where the Colony Farm is and expands up into the Vernoy Hill area, which is all state land already anyway.
But in order to cross the road, they wanted to do the tunnel so that you could cross.
Yeah, but
Take a bridge over.
no, but see that was a fallacy. That is, I mean, maybe at one time that was being talked about.
No, it was part of the discussion that I sat at. It's not a fallacy, it actually was discussed.
It may have been discussed, but that's not what making a critical environmental area involves. Critical environmental areas, we give it a designation as an area. So in the what I gave you, the information is the whole document. So take a look at the R6 and R8. If we want to move forward with that, It involves a local law, I believe, and I should have asked Mary with this, because it's a designation. It's not a zoning designation, it's a designation of land within the town of a critical, it's just designated as an environmental sensitive area.
I have been looking at David for 29 of July. Can you know them now?
Nope.
Letter?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
The letter, so I emailed you
I got
the
it.
natural heritage plan, which
Yeah.
if you look at RA6 and RA8, which are in that plan, and that shows the mapping of the area, so you can take a look at it.
I know where the one.
Obviously, the short-term rental law, we're gonna wanna do a little work on. I would like to, if the board doesn't have any objections, and we can discuss it next meeting, I will propose this, to schedule next meeting, meeting a week from now, we'll schedule public hearing for September. But the resolution next week would be to schedule the public hearing for the comprehensive plan stuff. See what you think about it. She's pretty clear, it's not the entire natural heritage plan, it's only up through, it's the text of the document and the maps up to the recommendations. We're not gonna make the recommendations part of the comp plan because we're gonna act on them, or not act on them one at a time individually.
Do we have to get input from the other towns? We have some of that.
I will check with Mary Lou. I believe for comp plan, we have to, every surrounding town, we have to send them the information. They have to have the ability to comment on it. Whether they do or not is another story. We also have to send it to the county board. So the public hearing would just be one part, one step of it. And we did this once before. And so that's that. Constabulary, just to give you a quick update, obviously the July date came and went. I spoke briefly to 2 of the 3 members. They did not give me a time frame. They said we need more time. So I'm going to follow up with them tomorrow. This week I've been a little involved with interviews with Shirley's position. Just to give you a quick update on that, I had over 75 applications. Out of that, I narrowed it down to about, I think it was about 15 or 16 people that I extended offer of interview to. A couple declined, one because she found another job in the interim. One is in a much higher paying job and was interested because it's 5 minutes away. He's actually almost a neighbor of yours. He lives on Durham Road. And he's working an hour away currently, but when he heard that there was no possibility of the salary being more or the wages being more, he politely declined his job. Which was too bad because he was highly qualified and it was a great find. Mentally, in my mind, I've now narrowed it down to 4 people. I'm going to go back through my notes that I made this week on the interviews again tomorrow. What I'm going to do is reach out to those 4 people and now ask them for personal and professional references, which we did not ask for in the beginning. I'm going to speak to those people in the next few days, and I expect to have it, well, not expecting, I will have a recommendation thing for you guys next week.
Adam, you weren't here. I was going to submit them.
B was gonna, under an assumed name, to see if she got an
See if she
interview.
was qualified?
Yeah.
She's been doing a handstand. Saw that resume come through.
I will tell you, 2 of the 4 people have municipal experience, which is nice. One is fire district, one is actually town, which is but their experience with the state process and all that. So, Spectrum and broadband. I actually got a conversation with Kevin Egan for the first time in months. Called him and he called me back almost immediately. Was going to put me in touch with another person who is transitioning into being our regional rep, although I think just 2 years ago. So who knows what the real truth is? And he was going to call me back, and of course that. So I'm going to be following up again with him tomorrow. Today was my last interview with people, so now tomorrow is going to be my day of phone calls. So I'm going to follow up with him tomorrow and try to get something scheduled soon. We're about halfway through our contract period, and I've also had conversation with Congressman Delgado's office, who he's made rural broadband one of his big issues. And there is a bill in front of the state legislature right now to require the Public Service Commission to provide better mapping, because the mapping right now is just if a place has the possibility of broadband, not the actual accomplishment of it. And if it has the possibility of it, they considered it covered. So if you look at our town, an awful lot of our town is considered covered, but yet we discovered, I think, with that survey that we did a couple of years ago, that we probably have better coverage than we thought we had. We probably have in the neighborhood of 70% coverage of houses, or maybe even a little more. But it's the gaps. We have a lot of areas where the line comes in, and then dies there for whatever. Some it's the end of the line because it just can't go any further. Some it's there's not enough houses past it.
Some people think that with the family.
Some people have. And I've also, to let you know too, I had a conversation with our two town cell tower operators, because recently they had to come in to the transfer station and clear some of the tree growth around their lines, because the trees were brushing against the lines and tripping the fuses, causing the fuses to fall. And until they trimmed, Central Hudson came and pulled their power, and they were operating on generators. So they were in there last week and trimmed everything. But while they were there, I had a conversation with them, and I said, we have areas of town that have no cell coverage. Would you be willing to have a conversation? And he said, yeah. So I'm going to forward him the locations of the areas. We pretty much have ruled out any town properties as being available, but there are some private properties that there's people interested in. And maybe we have a connection. Normally the cell tower companies won't build anymore. In the old days, they would build on speculation. Now they won't build until the carriers say yes. And I haven't been able to get the carriers.
I can tell you that if they could get one.
Yeah,
That's
the spot.
that's the spot. There's two spots where we have it bad, up there and then the closed area are the two really bad spots.
I know there's a spot available.
I know of one too, and actually the gentleman who owns,
Same one.
yeah, the gentleman who owns the property actually has a signed contract with a power company from about 4 years ago that they agree it's a great site. But they can't get any of the carriers to want to go on the tower. And they won't spend the money to build it unless they know they're going to get revenue. So,
It would not be, it's the only area.
yep. General code update, just to let you know,
Yeah, it is my favorite one. Not.
we were supposed to have our updates back to them. They did the analysis. Part of we went on the Eco 360. The second part was they did their analysis of our code. Mary Lou and I got back a binder about this thick. We started going through it, then all the COVID hit. It got delayed. I reached out to them and said, hey, we were supposed to have it back to them by April. Then I said, how about June? Recently, I reached out to her and I said, how about September or October? They understand. I've revisited the sections that I was working on. I had Jeff and Mike Dunham and Jerry. I just talked to them. They're going to look at their sections that they address. Mary Lou's going to look at her sections, and hopefully we'll have something in September to bring to you guys to have a, we'll probably have to have a special meeting on it, because it's going to be probably a roll up our sleeves and really dive into the code tweaks that they recommend and see which ones we think we should or shouldn't do. Most of them are kind of simple, because they're places where state law or federal law changed and our code language didn't change to reflect it. And the state or federal law still supersedes our law anyway, but if it says two opposite things, it's just it's a cleanup kind of thing. Others are recommendations of, do you really mean this? And you say this, but is this what you really mean? So we're kind of going through it piece by piece, and it's very well done the way they do. They give you a binder with leave as is, make these changes, follow, or there's another box to check, follow their recommendations. O&W Trail, Williams Lumber easement, just to let you know, the piece at Williams Lumber where that fence is, our rail trail ends actually at the other end of Williams property. Then what was the rail trail continues on the opposite side of where that fence was. A private group a long time ago negotiated an easement with Williams to allow the rail trail to connect to the other piece of the rail trail across Kaiserite. And that group is mostly defunct now. There's only one member left, Steve Rice. And he's about to dissolve the group probably at the end of this year. So he has recommended to me that I speak to Williams about creating an easement there for the town. I've talked with Flynn O'Connor, head of our trail committee, and he thinks it's a great idea. So I'm going to talk with Mary Lou and then figure that out and then approach Williams. My family knows the Williams family well from when I grew up over in Red Hook. They're originally from Rhinebeck, is where they started. So I do have a direct connection to be able to get to Mr. Williams, even though he's not as involved as he used to be. I could still probably have a conversation with him. The other idea Flynn thought about is right now we utilize along that fence for parking. The problem is when Williams closes, they put a chain up across the gate because they don't want people going in there, essentially stealing their product.
But people still park in the parking lot just before the gate.
The other thing is the manager at Williams is incredibly nice, and on the weekends he will wait to leave if he still sees a car there until those people leave. I'm not so sure we're going to continue to get that lucky. Lynn has an idea. There's an empty hayfield across the street. I don't want to name the owners here in public, but it is a local owner. Potentially approaching them about maybe a 40 by 100 foot strip of some kind and creating a little mini parking area across the street from Williams where we could maybe fit 8 or 10 cars. Because that stretch from Williams up to Marbletown, now that the drainage issues have been fixed, courtesy of Flynn and the highway guys, and they've gotten in there and really done a nice job, it's getting really heavily traveled. And the other update is the wood chips that were left by Central Hudson on the other part of the trail are now gone. Jeff went in there with his crew once he got his tractor back, it was being repaired, but with a blade, and they just pushed him off to the side, smoothed it out, and it was an error and a misunderstanding in communication. Jeff had told him it was okay to put it in the wet areas. They put it on the entire trail. They weren't even chips. These were boulders of wood. You couldn't. Yeah. No, these were chunks of wood. Yeah, they were splinters of wood, and it was almost impossible to walk on it. Definitely impossible to bike on. So that's covered. And then finally, Parks and Recreation. I've been dealing with Rick Jones, who knows an awful lot about trees, and he volunteers with the New York Botanical Garden, and he has been guiding me. The veterans last Veterans Day, when we had our ceremony at Veterans Park, said, it'd be really nice if we get a ring of trees around here, and they talked about planting one a year. And Rick said, you don't want to do that because then you're going to end up with all this hodgepodge of height. So his recommendation is that we move the 9/11 tree, which has only been in there a year and a half, to the center behind the flagpole and make that be the featured tree. He says it still can be done. And then we plant 4 trees or 6 trees, either 2 or 3 on either side in kind of a semicircle around the park. It would make it really nice. So he and I are looking into, for this fall in September, he said the time to plant would be like the second week of September. So we're looking into planting 4 trees there and moving the 9/11 Bradford pear to the center. And that tree is thriving. It's really thriving really well.
I think it's nice.
So, the only expense with Jeff guys can do the work with their backhoe. The only expense would be the 4 trees. And Jeff is looking into, he recommends a specific linden, which has a fragrant flower in the spring and makes a really nice yellow leaf in the fall. The guys had talked about fruit trees. Rick said, stay away from fruit trees. They're too prone to disease. He said, chances are if you plant 4.
Could you find a tree that would be like the yellow leaf, something like a banana?
Well, yeah, he had looked at a magnolia, but they're not hardy enough for this weather here. And he said, you get a really cold winter, they may not survive. So, mhm.
Their rationale is that the municipality is spending money on the trees to construct it. And so we're trying to
Okay. We're trying to keep it native, but yeah, sugar maple might be. Yeah. Let me ask him, because we were looking at, trying to keep it within about 30 feet height. If he didn't want to, because he said that Bradford pear will probably only grow to about 20, so we didn't want to tower over it with some 20-foot trees that are massive. I'll bring next week, he got me some pictures of some examples. You guys can take a look. But just want to keep you in the loop. Adam, did you actually look at that playground grant? And it's really not a grant. It's just a sort of a buy our equipment and we'll give you a discount.
There you go, the old discount.
Yeah. We got some information on playground equipment, but it turned out not to be a grant.
No, but one of the things that Ashley's been working on, we had, and Mike, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this yet, but I think this is kind of a workshop meeting kind of stuff. We had a concerned citizen reach out to me probably 10 days ago, and your old hometown of Red Hook did something really incredible with their rec department. Because most of it's shut down, they really used it as an opportunity to focus on the seniors of their town. What they really realized was there were so many individual agencies and groups that were working towards seniors. The problem is none of them knew what each other was doing. And this particular person asked Adam, does our town know what all the different groups are doing? And over the course of a handful of phone calls, the answer is no. So our thought is, and it's real preliminary at this point.
My windows are down.
Oh, okay. So, and I reached out to B on this, and we have probably 5 or 6 different agencies right in the town of Rochester, not to mention the Office for the Aging. That has all sorts of great things. So the example is our rec department right here probably takes care of less than 10 seniors. There's a Silver Sneakers group in town. There's a Golden Seniors group in town. Jewish seniors, Catholic seniors, the town of Rochester Reformed Church seniors group, not to mention. But still, has some of our folks. In addition to that, I guess many years ago, and Pete can speak more to this, our constabulary has a emergency response force, but that was originally intended to be a 3-tier system. And we got into tier 2 and it regressed back to tier 1. Talking with Rich, you'd be really excited. So our thought was, and I wanted to put it out to the board, was September 1st, the Office for the Aging would like to come down and meet with our different agencies as a senior council to talk about what the different agencies do and how they can work together. Ashley kind of jumped right into motion. She sent out a flyer to all of her seniors saying that, hey, there's more things that are available. But one of the things that really I thought was, just one good example of the many things that could be done was the Office for the Aging has a seniors and seniors program, high school seniors teaching local seniors how to use computers and use technology. And they do it in 10-hour blocks as high school credit for volunteerism, and it's been wildly successful in other places. But the whole thing kind of brought up from the town of Redford.
Yeah, I had a conversation actually with Ashley because when that program started, Ready to Respond, I noticed it right away. And I think when the Project Resilience went away, some people may have fallen through the cracks. I'm not, there's a lot of other programs that picked up the slack, and I'm confident that many, if not most, are being served, but the concern is that there's other people not being served. And there's also, it's a way for seniors to give back to other seniors too. Many of the volunteers in the Ready to Respond are seniors themselves. Excuse me. So I reached out to Ashley too, and she did create this flyer that we moved on quickly because, Chrissy, there's something you guys are mailing out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But
The manufacturing disability rules, and we're getting it out to
And it's just, it's a listing of the different, if you need help with this, this is who, if you need help with transportation, here's who you should call. If you need help with food, here's who you should call.
Do we have the list from the Project Resilience that we could go to?
We do, there's not, yeah, and well, and as I said, not that I don't wanna just, diminish it, but I don't wanna just, I think there's more than just seniors who may need this.
Oh, I know.
Because when we were delivering the food, there were a lot of families. That were delivering food.
but I think
understand.
this is more from the standpoint of here's the real problem is if you take our population and you figure, whatever percentage is seniors, right now our rec department handles 10 or 15, our Silver Sneakers is 8, our even our emergency response is 150. I know we have more than 175 seniors around there.
Depends on what the policy and how they feel about it, because most of the, and I'm gonna say this because it's happening. Most of the people I graduated with in the class of 68 from Rondell will turn 70. Now, some of us feel old and some of us don't. So 70 is now more like the old 60. We're not the same, so I think we're looking at a different age.
But it doesn't just mean that you're invalid.
No, I'm not saying.
But it's everything from kayaking and casino trips to emergency response for people that are alone that don't have family
There
members
are
in
a
town.
lot of.
But it's a population that has a lot of services that are made available to it that one doesn't know what the other is doing.
Right.
And like I said, the thought is if we could get everybody in the room at the same time and say, I represent this group of people and this is what we do. And they go, oh, we do something similar. Hey, we didn't know that was available. Just putting those people in a room for 2 hours would inspire some.
I can go up to Cherry Town without even thinking of 4 women right now who are living by themselves. But it doesn't mean they don't have families. They all have families.
Well, and I think the thing is I think I really like this idea. I've had some conversations with people involved with food pantry stuff who were concerned about our community. And I think this is excellent. And it's also not just about, there's 2 things. There's like finding people who are maybe in need of services and making sure that we have a good way of connecting those people. And I think this could do that, but also it's about community. And we live in a rural community that doesn't have public transportation, and just like the idea of like having community, having the services, making sure people know about them and know who to call. I think about, people like my grandma who need that kind of thing, and to be able to like, she's also really independent. She's 95 and but that like we want to like that's like our job, and this is I think this is excellent.
But it's everything. That's what I'm saying is that designation of senior spans everything from hey, I want to know where the best kayaking and hiking
Right.
is, all the way to, we need to have representation for Beds of Golden.
Yep.
You know, and I think it's a larger group of people, and we all care, you know, and because there's so many groups, but if the groups knew what each other did, it can only help. And that's.
And it occurred to me because our recreation department is not just youth anymore. It's youth and seniors, and that's why we kind of changed the name from the youth commission. You know, we haven't officially, but Ashley and I talked about having, she said, could we start a similar one for seniors? And I said, why don't we maybe look at expanding the commission we have and merging the two together, because there's probably an awful lot of overlap too. Everything is not just about
That
planning.
idea of seniors, there are many people
So,
not used to it.
but they're the, you know, Rita has a database of all the people that come to her exercise class, and she regularly is communicating with them, and you know, we're loaning them the weights that we have and the smart belts that we have. If anybody wants to come check one out, so they can work at home. She offered to do some of these classes online, and they are doing some yoga. The county is doing, I think, some yoga classes. And there's a number of the seniors that are coming to them and that are comfortable with technology and are doing it. But there's others who just want to wait.
That's what I'm saying, a lot of,
But that's in my talks with the Office of the Aging. The Office of the Aging has given our seniors a lot more credit than I think most of us do when they're saying, no, they love Zoom meetings. They love doing yoga via the computer. And when that seniors for seniors thing, they said, you know, it's not just teaching somebody how to turn on an iPad. It's like, hey, I'll show you how to set up a podcast. You know, I know you're 78 years old, but I can show you how to create a podcast and get your information out to, you know, the mass media, and people are into it. So, but that's what I'm saying. It's a
that's
very
how
good,
old was.
it's a very, very, very good first group, and we're trying, we have the components to represent it. Everybody's doing a good job, but we could do a great job, maybe even a phenomenal job. You know, our rec department's one of the crown jewels of the town of Rochester. Like I said, it could be something really, really special. The people that care, you know.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
People have asked me about Dollar General. And I say,
Well, the
"No,
short
it
answer is no.
is."
But I will tell you that project and that location are sort of self-defeating, and just the initial reaction of the planning board was fairly negative to the applicant. And no, it is
On the corner of Lucas
at the
and-
corner of Lucas and 209.
The old DeMayo's.
The old gun shop.
You just want to talk about a place to bring tractor trailers into. You couldn't pick a worse place in town of Rochester.
That is
Yeah.
getting in and out.
It's already a tough.
They were approaching it with utilizing the existing driveway, and they were in conversations with the DOT. However, our town zoning code doesn't allow driveways for commercial within so many feet of an intersection. So there's a lot of reasons why that location, we don't have legislation that, you know, bans box stores. Some people have tried it. Some people have succeeded in it. Some people have not. They've been challenged in court and lost. That would take a lot of work. But in general, I think they got the message because they have not reached back out to the planning board again to be on August agenda, whether they're going back to the drawing board. I will tell you, we got at least 2 or 3 phone calls from people wanting to be put in touch with them because they had alternate property they wanted to speak to Dollar General about. And, you know, Becky asked me, can we give out the information, the applicant, if it's public, as long as, you know, public information, so.
They want to put it in bad enough.
Yeah, but in general, I don't think it will happen in that location. That's my gut feeling, because I think there's a lot of reasons it can't safely be done. I mean, my feeling as somebody who's pretty involved in planning is the only way it would work is if there was a traffic light at that intersection and the Dollar General access went straight to that traffic light. And that is the only way it could work, and I don't think that would work.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Another point of access.
It'd be a worse intersection, that one in Rosendale,
Yeah.
together with.
So,
Oh, my God, yeah.
so, the short answer is no, we can't just say, no, you can't come because it is zone business, it is allowed to be business, but there's a lot of infrastructure reasons why it's not a good property for this to.
It just made me realize this, again, an opportunity, if Dollar General is interested, that means they did a study about the next. So someone could open a store again, like, when you talk about that, I totally missed it.
Well, the guy who owns that is also the guy who owns the gas station where they're making that gorgeous addition.
Oh, no.
And, right?
No, that's.
The one at.
The one at Queens.
The old
Queen's
DX
Mall.
Express, one of the points.
It's the same owner. And that, they're doing a really nice job. And when they're done, I believe the existing building is gonna be demolished and that's gonna be replaced, so.
They've made it much.
And then we also have on our agenda, a drive, much similar to the guy up on Route 28, it's the same guy. A drive-through, like coffee, breakfast place, but he's gonna do 15-seat cafe as well, where the old Rainbow Diner is. And that's on the agenda for the, planning board next month. So, there is planning board is busy right now.
He's having food there.
Yeah. That's the thing, we are at a lack of restaurants in this town.
I wasn't so busy, I opened one.
Yeah, you had the qualifications.
I actually just opened one.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah, you said that.
But I just wanted to bring up the current zoning program, so that's what we do all everybody.
Mhm.
Mark Gallagher, he could post on safety practice on Monday. But the current may be, the current may be the only viable solution to get to our economy. And the PPE process. I know it's new, and yesterday Emily and I said the county loves the idea of using the 100,000 line of credit, it's interest-free, but she doesn't have the time to champion it. So now, town of Rochester is the only municipality even close, in my mind, to being ready for this. And if we don't want to move forward with it, we just know because then we can remove the component.
Is there some kind of proposal you could bring and present?
Yeah. So that can repeat myself in the decision, but it's a unique line of credit, and I just started learning more about script during the vacation. And the script, they used to call local currency during the vacation script, and thousands of them were created, which finally got us out of it. But in Switzerland, the script was created called the WIR, W-I-R. So in 1934, they helped Switzerland get out of the depression faster than they still have it. It's the oldest local currency in the world, and it helps stabilize the Swiss franc. So these are very innovative and new ideas.
It started as a small community.
Yeah, and like mostly they were corporate issues. So like the General Water Cement Company had their own script, for example, locally. And it helped the business start moving again because there wasn't access. And that's what we're starting to do.
I saw on, I think it was CBS Sunday Morning recently, a show about a community, I think somewhere out west, that has an old printing press that was still the original printing press for printing their own local currency. And they're continuing it, and there's one guy who still knows how to operate that, and he's still operating it. And they're creating their own currency and utilizing it within their own community.
My sister and I own a press in 1895 power without electricity. So when we first issued our currency, we were doing a deep impression on each bill, but now that we printed thousands.
You have the wheel that you just turned.
It's not a huge flywheel.
Yeah.
It's very heavy. I like giving you that. But now they are on 100% recycled paper, and they have full security seal on both sides. And the website's not much anymore, but I'd love to do a presentation if you got that.
Yeah.
And you can use that in my store starting next week. Cool.
Okay. Favorite motion?
That sounds like you want to.
I was doing, I was pointing, more motion to adjourn.
I'll
Nobody
second.
wants to leave.
There we go. Thank you, everybody. The end of the recording here.
Many days ago home.
Yeah. I don't know if we stopped hearing this. I don't think so.
No, I don't